All right, we should be live. Hello, everybody. Once first of all, for those of you who have never seen my face before, who have never seen the person behind the platform, who have never seen me, like I'm up there, my little face. If you're watching on Instagram, of course, if you're watching on all the other platforms, if you've never seen the person behind the avatar, I'm Kristen Jeffers. I created the Black Urbanist just over a decade ago to create a place and a space for me to express myself as a person. Over the years, a lot has changed, and but one of the things that has not changed on the platform is every year I make wishes. So if you want to go to theblackurbanist.com and search for wishes, you're going to see a litany of things. Sometimes the wishes are more personal, sometimes they're more professional. And one of the things I've added now as an addition to the tradition, because basically I like to take the opportunity in this calendar month to honor my personal, like it's my actual birthday. My birthday is on December 14th. I have no problems telling you I'll be 37 years old. It is a blessing to be there. One of my ancestors who is, and hi, hi to, I will periodically, those of you who are watching on Instagram, I will try to shout you out a little bit. But for those of you who are watching on all the other platforms, you're like going to get the screen. You're going to get the split screen where I'm going to put some of the things, words up on the screen. So feel free to watch on both platforms. Feel free to watch again on both platforms. And I like to try to keep these to like 15 or 20 minutes because, unfortunately, attention spans are what they are. And, I live, even though I am the age that I am, I live in a TikTok world and I'm not there today. But I wish things, and this year I want to extend that to thanking everyone and also talking about like my gift giving ethic, since we're seeing, we have been asked to be thankful, even though the reason why specifically we're supposed to be thankful on the day we're supposed to be thankful is not a great time. But I am thankful that we have knowledge of the people who were here on the so called United States, as well as that many folks have been able to go back to Africa and know exactly where their folks came from. And of course, let's be real, we're all the same humans, but of course, we live in the various constructs. We cannot ignore what has been done. And so that's why over time, this container has expanded out beyond just being an urbanist. Because if I just stuck with being an urbanist, there will be so many things that get missing. That's why this is a Black queer feminist urbanism, because it is an urbanism that reflects myself back in the mirror. I can't do it any other way at this point. And over the next few weeks, as I talk about my wishes, as I talk about the gifts I've been given, as I talk about gratitudes, as we honor this season, but honor it in a way that honors everyone that is here on this planet and whatever they choose to honor, celebrate, grieve, mourn, lift up, etc. I will be talking about how I become more specific and why I become more specific into what I'm practicing. Because there's so many other resources and other people that are creating urbanisms. We live in a world of feminisms, urbanisms, blacknesses, queer states, trans states, gendered states, moneyed states, all kinds of states. So, with that being said, I also want to issue a personal thank you because the last time I was live, the last time I made a video, unfortunately, I was literally about to drive back to the hospital to tend to my partner, Les, who you all know. Some of you know her in a professional capacity, as we are both, yes, we are a double urbanism household here. Others of you know her from her work endometriosis advocacy, specifically on endoqueer. Of course, you're going to hear more about that. That's one of the things I'm going to mention when I get into the gift giving section. That'd be a nice place to gift right now. We were we were awaiting some surgeries. Now we are both home in recovery, but there are more surgeries to go. But I wanted to specifically thank everyone who sent gift cards, who continues to pray and send meta, or however you express giving good thoughts and vibes and support to people through challenges. The interesting thing is, I don't know if somebody's, I saw this on LinkedIn, and those of you who are watching on LinkedIn, y'all probably saw this too. Somebody said that they were not they hated seeing people's beds and children and cats, and like, if we're really still living that right now, then that's a shame. And this is definitely not the urbanism for you. If you want a more pressed, more professional urbanism, it's not going to be here. This is what we have. This is the offering. This is the gift. And this is the first part of the gratitude. And this is also how I think about sharing resources. Of course, in this time of year, we are encouraged to like buy things and do things. And I'm actually gonna, those of you watching on LinkedIn and all the kind of the horizontal platforms, I have a few slides that are going with this today. And I just put the one up about infusing your gift giving, your resource sharing, your mutual aids, everything with this kind of ethic. Like with thinking about where things are situated and the places they are situated in, these so called lands, these lands split by waterways. And at one point, these lands were all more jointed, but now we are on different land masses and where we are. And just thinking about that and really centering that. As also those of us who are in the northern hemisphere, there are weather changes. Those of you who are in the southern hemisphere, it's your spring and your summer, and there's a lot of warmth and joy around that. For those of us in the northern hemisphere, we're kind of coming inward. And so for me, having been born in the northern hemisphere, December for me is not a summer. It is a kind of state going into winter. It is the winter solstice instead of the summer solstice. So just all of that to say, this is kind of where my thoughts are when I'm thinking about, okay, I would love to ride a bike through the winter. Okay, I would love to have these certain things. That's also in the mix. And so I'll be writing more about this, but I just wanted to take that time, since this is kind of a combined video. I meant to get the gratitude part up last week and then do the gift giving this week and then do more things. It's been quite the few weeks. It's been kind of busy, slightly chaotic in my world, but I'm just grateful to be able to stop and have time with you. I'm grateful that you all who still have paid attention to me. I went back the other day and looked through who was opening my emails. I looked through who's on my LinkedIn profile. And so many of you remember when this little idea of the Black governess was just a little nugget in my head, something that would make me go wild and just angst and worry. But now, this year, especially with centering around the ethic I've created, it is coming together. It is a thing. And so, with that, I want to kind of talk with you about some of the ways I've chosen to gift. I wanted to highlight this. So, I wrote this bullet in the newsletter. And then the next morning, and of course, if you all were following me last year, you know, one of my wishes last year was that we would go fare free with transit. And we would realize that many of us in local government have taxing capabilities, fee assessing capabilities, and we can do that on entities that generate income, so that those who aren't getting paid by those entities fairly, or who are always subjective to like regressive taxes, hello sales tax, hello fares that come at a gate that you have to think about when you travel, at least here, at least in a proposal, at least with trips originating out of the District of Columbia, we're looking at potentially free Metro Rail, or Metro Bus rather. I still want Metro Rail, so keep on working. Y'all know me and so many others. Of course, I want to shout out the work of Transit Center. I want to also shout out the work of those in the consortium around the Kansas City metro region that figured this out. I want to shout out the city of Alexandria, Virginia. I want to shout out everybody who has figured out how to provide public transportation in a spirit of the public, where you go and look at your municipal budget and you see that there's a line item. Or if there's companies that you thought the incentive was to waive their taxes, but they generate so much that they can pay for so many things. That is the spirit of this block. And if you're on a horizontal video platform, I'm highlighting that one of the things, gifts you can give this year, both individually, as an individual, or maybe as an organization or as a faith organization, say stitching circle, fraternity, sorority, group of friends, big family that's been that has had managed to amass a little bit of wealth or just wants to share. Think about your family members who need anything from gas in their tanks to a bike tune up to a plane ticket home, a train ticket home, especially, gosh, Amtrak is just, y'all, please think about a program yourself. Let's figure this out. You all are federally funded. I just let me make this note that this platform is also about planting seeds and planting ideas. This is absolutely a thought experiment, and it is absolutely a revolutionary act for a Black feminine presenting person to have a thought experiment. Urban theorist blog out here. I don't know many other folks like myself. I know folks that tied to universities. I know folks that like elders that sit around dinner tables and elders that sit around kitchens and stoves that have these ideas, but they don't always get to share them. So this is me sharing this. And this is one of the things that since I wrote the newsletter earlier this week has actually started to come true yet again in other places, as well as when I wish this in my wish, like what I call the wish journey. We're getting ready to go into the 2022-2023 wish journey. You'll see that next week. So the next thing, let's talk about, I mentioned before, we've been going through here in our household, we've been going through some medical challenges. And if I feel sound a little stuffy today, I finally decided to start looking into, okay, what's going on inside my sinuses. I've managed to evade COVID right now, but I've always had sinusitis and a lot of things going on internally that affected my voice, ear, tunnels, everything. And I was like, okay, since I have the means for health insurance, since I have the provision for health insurance or a version of it, let me get that together. So, but other people do not have that. And that's why you see so many GoFundMe's, Cash App requests, all of that. And that's honestly, this is what people are dealing with. And I think when we stick to an urbanism that's just the built environment, just the transportation system, just like housing, and we forget about the people who live inside the houses, we forget about medical centers, we forget about that so many of you may have never built or planned for a medical center in your planning career because there's not as enough and not as many, but we need more. And of course, healthcare itself needs a revolution because it's not just what's been built around you, it's how you feel about it and how it's making you feel. I practice this urbanism that I practice is holistic as well. And it is ability. Yeah. Someone on Instagram just said intersectionality matters. Like this is living intersectionality. So please think about those who are asking for medical expenses. This is another place I'm going to plug EndoQueer, EndoQueer. That's how it's spelled. I'm going to spell it out. That's another thing I'm working to do because I do have a slide on here about increasing accessibility. And that's one of the things I want to do. Hence why there are two versions of this, the written one, and I try to sync the video one up as much as possible. But I'm actively leaning into one, I have disabilities, and two, others have ones that are more prominent, and I want to be there for them. But in the interim, anybody going through a medical challenge, please think about making sure they have what they need, or what if you can't like give monetarily, if you have a great care reference like a doctor, practitioner, midwife, doula, all those intermediate healthcare, if you have extra medical equipment that you're no longer using, that your child is no longer using, think about giving that. Or if like so many people have done, they've been sending us food cards, they've been sending us like just donations just so we can get through the day, even if you can't pay out directly to a formal GoFundMe, or if you know a friend that's going through something, think about that. And think about, or those of you Planet Fitness members, Black Card members, I'm also a Black Card member, you get a guest, so that could be helpful. If you got extra PPE, personal protective equipment, masks, trying to tests, all these things that are getting more and more expensive now that COVID's supposedly over, like please share those items. Those are Also, yesterday was World AIDS Day, and that we need to be mindful that that has not gone away. Yes, many people can become undetectable with a medicine regimen, but making sure people have access to that. So please think about how we can meet medical needs at this time so that people can be involved and be active and be there for all the other things. This gets into housing. I want to shout out all of my real estate realtors who are helping people find homes, who know who to target. I'm thinking of one in particular who is new to the real estate world. David, I really enjoy your memes. I don't know if you're watching this, but if you are, really enjoy your memes. I really enjoy the information that you're giving. And everybody else, either realtors I've been working with or people who are adjacent to that situation. And I know a lot of people, they get in, of course, I want to shout out my cousin Ashley, who's also been into warehousing and real estate. I know many of us get into this to help people and balance things out. But please know who you're talking to. Like, target the, if people are talking high end and they have that money, go to them and drag the money out of them. But over here on the lower and the middle ends, there's far too many homes, apartments that are not up to code, places, landlords that don't treat us well, or they assume that criminality just because you need a voucher. Yes, voucher amounts. HUD has teeth now where they're looking at the Section 8 program and all these things. But we should, especially those of you all who I've had this conversation with around CNU, the Incremental Development Alliance folks, John Anderson, and everybody who's kind of involved in that collective, who've been thinking about Wanana, Satcher, like all of y'all who are doing the housing thinking and all the housing stuff. Let's continue to be, of course, Deja, thank you so much for coming, being on the live Instagram. Once again, if anybody's just joining in, I'm live both on Instagram as well as on other horizontal video platforms. You can also get a replay of this with some graphics on the screen on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on YouTube. I'm not live on the Bird app. I'm still determining what the Bird app's going to look like for me, but I'm still there. So absolutely, if you're still tweeting, I'm there, and I'm still kind of sussing out some of the replacements. But as I was mentioning before, I was talking about the housing. Let's do what we can to make sure, and especially if we've got some folks in our community that are facing eviction right now, people who could just use a little nudge to get into a more permanent housing situation. Let's continue to be, just as we're being creative with transportation and providing public transportation, shelter is a human right, and people not having shelter is making things hard. People not having adequate shelter, especially youth, our young people. If we want to feed into and breathe into our young people, if we want them to grab that wealth that we're hoping to create with these properties and with being in the property world, let's think about how we can build a sliding scale out into the property world, not just in rates of property access, but also in the type of housing that we are providing. I know there's more than enough housing for people. And let's also think about the world around the housing, like safety. Unfortunately, we're living in a gun culture, and it's just devastating that we're living in a gun culture. Let's think about, just internally. And this is, once again, why this is a holistic urbanist platform. Of course, I'm playing beat the clock because we're getting down to the sun. Supporting other media, me and any other media people or anybody that says, hey, I need funds. Like, if you enjoy our content and, maybe you don't have a hometown newspaper, or maybe you have like something like The Assembly, or I also want to shout out Y'all Weekly. Those are two NC based publications. Of course, I still, as of right now, am editing part-time with Greater Washington and others that are community local news outlets that are 501c3s that are doing Newsmatch, or some independent creators where we just have a Patreon up or we have a Cash App or Venmo. But if we're providing information for you, especially the Black press, the Spanish language, and other non-English language presses that are promoting democracy, because unfortunately censorship is alive and well throughout the world. The LGBTQ press, as they've been covering so many of these tragic situations, but also joyful situations, like the fact that we had so many folks elected into local government offices as well as at the federal US level, people in positions of power that have not been there before. So that's positive. So please just continue. I have a $5 level set up, and that's going to be my focus level for this year. A $5 level. Also, want to shout out that I'm now a board member of a lovely organization called Culture House, which is it's a tactical urbanism organization that focuses on community context. I will be doing a partner event somewhat with them next year up in Boston. So they also have a birthday campaign. I'll be plugging that in my newsletter going forward. And you can, they are a C3. I know a lot of us get into tax deductibility. Let's be honest, for many of us who are on salaries of less than six figures, or even if we were running businesses and we haven't hit six figures of revenue, we probably get more write off when we write off our assets, especially us business owners writing off assets. And likewise, taking the standard deduction on your taxes, you probably get more write off from that. But this isn't about, like, I don't want to derail this and get into the tax system and everything because that could be a whole video newsletter in itself. But please don't hesitate when it comes to thinking about giving small amounts, $5, $10 a month, to patrons like mine and other creators, especially creators that have marginalizations, creators that are trying to match grants, trying to provide, like, if you had any, like, your 2020 ethic of giving back to people, please continue to think about that as you're doing this now. Like, a lot of the things that we thought about in 2020 have not been solved, just like we still have folks that are battling COVID complications and COVID grieving from losing family members and losing, we're all still dealing with this. So let's all move forward in how we are approaching our work. This is something you can purchase or get from the library. Like, those of you who really want to be involved in city building, please think about learning where you are, learning why. Like, don't just blindly, and let me not say blindly, that's a piece of ableist language I'm working on eradicating. There's so much, unfortunately, so many of our words that talk about gaps in our knowledge and gaps in our empathy, put the onus on not being able to hear, not being able to see, not being able to speak. And please forgive me, I'm working through that little bit of internalized ableism that comes out because it's in, or like cultural ableism, just like we have all these other cultural racisms and everything. And this is one of the things I think reading a local biography. Some of my favorites are chocolate cities. Now, of course, there's two chocolate cities. As you know, if you've been with me long enough, we did the chocolate cities that is the black map. There's also a chocolate city that deals with Washington, D.C. Dream City is also out of print, and that's a good one that kind of covers from the Marion Barry years. But Chocolate City goes all the way out and zooms out, and you see everything in the history of the district. Likewise, the libraries themselves have major city libraries also, in addition to their city biographies, city analyses, have records. Of course, some counties and cities have some of those same records that the researchers went to. You can go to them yourself. I was just at the Hyattsville, Maryland Library, which has the Prince George's County collection, and there are like books that go into what the neighborhood I live in, which is a unincorporated, densified neighborhood here in the county, looked like, was titled, how the county used to see it in planning documents. So that's a really fun place. And of course, those of you who are in planning school, architecture school, some of these things are in your libraries. Definitely, if you have the college library access, a lot of this stuff is already there. In fact, there may be a whole section that is just the city biographies and the city analyses. Have fun. Start with your own city, and then branch out to others, especially others that you want to work into, especially if you want to do work in neighborhoods that have been racially marginalized, so that you understand what specific things, who has been doing the oppressing directly, what specific policies, what the names of the highways are that have cut through the neighborhoods that have created these barriers. So take some time, log off from here and read those things. I'm still working on that Chocolate Cities book. Power Moves is a good one for the Houston area. Great Society Subway is more of just, it was one of my favorite kind of biographies of public transportation. So yeah, read those city analyses and biographies. I know, and I know technically that's not the right terminology, but it is telling it, like, I have to admit, I do ascribe personalities and personas to cities and regions. So they are, to me, they are biographies of a multi-pronged entity with multiple people and things attached to them. So, but analyses, historical books, nonfiction, creative nonfiction accounts of the histories and the creations and the governances of cities. That give that gift to yourself, especially if you want to, students coming in and out of like schools and you want to learn more about where you're living and where you want to serve. Craft markets and vendor markets, there's plenty of them. In fact, I'm at some point, possibly this weekend, I will be going to the downtown holiday market. It's been a tradition that Les and I do. One of the few things we can do as we ease back into our normalish lives. And likewise, I want to give a shout out to Sunny South Dallas Food Park, Dee Powell's lovely work, independent work under her planning arm. And of course, she's helping prepare us for this year's Congress for the New Urbanism in Charlotte. And of course, there's so many vendor markets, community markets, flea markets, creative reuse centers. Start there. Those of you who, I'm really getting into Facebook Marketplace lately. If you love it online, that's kind of the real life place. I also want to speak the name of Reconsider Goods here in Prince George's County. They're having to move venues, but they are very popular and they have a lot of great gently used furniture and appliance items. I know there's some people's Habitat for Humanity chapters do the Restore. There's Second Chance in Baltimore, Upcycle in Alexandria for craft supplies, as well as Scrap Baltimore. And I think there was a Scrap Portland. Once again, research the community craft and vendor markets. If you got that going on, that's a side hustle for you. Let folks know how we can support you in that. And also use that as a opportunity to plan. Like, planning departments, show up, like, continue to do that. Maybe tweak your strategy if you feel like it's not working, but the Cyclavias and the open streets and all these markets and vendor times are still great. And I think that's a wonderful way not only to get gifts for people who need to just have a tangible gift in hand, maybe a young child that's part of their holiday tradition, especially those of you all who celebrate the candle holidays where you're lighting candles for several nights in a row and you have a little something. Those are great places to get a little something from and support the community. Also, for those of you who are very technical around the your plant, like, help folks get their certifications, help folks get their MWBE or disadvantaged enterprise, help folks understand what kind of legal structure they are in. The paperwork stacks can be overwhelming, like copyrights, everything. If you are an attorney or if you are really good with the legal documents and the technical documents in whatever space you are in, that is a great way. I know many of you attorneys are already hit with pro bono, but also architects, planners, engineers. Pro bono is something else, something you can do as well. And that is squarely in your lane. You know, there's other entities that maybe do more of the like individual mutual aid, but you have that technical skill and we need technical skills. As I mentioned before, mitigating housing and transportation issues, consider like adding an arm where you build a couple houses or do home repairs or do transport. Like, think about the things you do well. Think about what your organization is known for and consider doing it for free or for like a low fee or for like an even trade with people who don't necessarily have the big bucks to give to you, but have something to offer and need, or they just need it. And you want to continue to practice equity and solidarity in what you're doing. That's a great way. And of course, I know, unfortunately, on one of the videos, things are getting dark. So let me turn on a few lights here and let me give you a few more things. I got one more slide. Of course, I have been learning that, as I mentioned before, accessibility is not just something you do once or twice. It is an ethic, just like this. All of what I've been talking about has been a design ethic. So, with that, that's all I have. I am so thankful for y'all still being here and hanging with me. Please share. At Black Urbanist, I'm still on Twitter. I am also on Mastodon. You can search at Black Urbanist. I think I'm at blackurbanist.urbanist.social. I'm still figuring out how to get on over there because it's a lot of different platforms and such. Likewise, over on Chris Pattern, I'm gonna go live briefly over there in just a couple seconds because y'all been missing me too. I ain't like I've really been touching yarn. I've just been here balancing everything. So I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank all of you, and I'm so proud of all of the newer and younger and platforms, planning, craft, urbanism platforms. I will talk more about what 2023 and the rest of 2022 is going to look like as far as working with me, as far as like things I'm going to be putting out there, as far as like things I'm going to be doing. And there's a lot that I'm going to be doing and I'm excited about, and I'm excited to have you. Of course, you can always, I'm going to try to continue to do these video newsletters, but I mean, I'm also going to continue to do the Monday. And yes, you can advertise. I have an advertiser running through the end of the year, and it is not too late for you to be an advertiser as well. So please reach out to me if that's something you're interested in. And with that, I'm going to let you have your Friday, which you probably already have started, depending on where you are. West Coasters is coming. 5 o'clock is coming. But on the East Coast, in 15 minutes, hopefully you'll be logging off and you might not be watching me to the end. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, and until next time.